All right, rock and roll.
Okay, so I'm super excited about today. This day has been coming for months.
May 29th.
When did we first? May 29th.
May 29th was the day that I purchased the actual online course.
Okay, get closer to the mic.
June 5th is when I started studying. But about 17 years ago is when it was something I knew I wanted to do.
Get closer to the mic.
When I knew it was something I wanted to do. So
Yeah.
17 years.
Okay.
17 years. And
So I knew about it this year.
Yeah,
Maybe end of last year.
I needed Corona to stop me in the tracks and give me an opportunity to try something different.
You know what? When Corona hit, I knew that because when I left Lifetime and I got into real estate, it was a very painful push. It was it was suddenly clear that was not where I belonged for a lot of reasons, and it forced me to get into real estate, and I love it. And when Corona hit, I'm like, man, this is going to cause a lot of pain for a lot of people, and they're going to change their lives. Hopefully for the positive.
Yeah.
Like, it's because like, oh, now I have this time. Now, the gym shut down, my office is shut down. I'm working from home, so I have more time because now when you're working from home, for some people, I felt like you would have people like you need to get the job done, and their bosses aren't going to be, you need to sit in front of a computer for 8 hours.
Yeah.
If you're getting your work done, then I felt like a lot of people would have more time, and so I think a lot of people are probably changing careers right now.
Yeah,
and you're one of a few that I know personally.
Yeah, I put a lot of thought in that too, especially being home for so long. And at first, it made me feel out of place. It was difficult to wake up and feel like less purposeful. Like I felt like I had no purpose because you'd have a job, you'd wake up, you'd have your morning routine, you'd go to work, you'd help, you'd do what you did for 20 years, and then all of a sudden that was gone. So I kind of like lost myself, and then I wanted to stay busy because I'm super active. I like to just feel like I'm getting stuff done. And with the time that I had extra, I was just thinking about what else could I do if the fitness industry doesn't
Rebound.
come back. If it doesn't rebound, I'm in trouble. It's the only thing I know. It's what I loved. I still love. But real estate has always been an interest that I had. Even walking around with houses with you, like all the questions I was asking.
Yeah, that's where Mike came from. He was a client.
Yeah, I was paying attention and taking notes, and
you're like, everything we did together helped me on my test. I was like, oh, okay, that's good.
It did. One of my first clients, Isabel Diaz, totally was trying to recruit me for years, and I wasn't in the right spot at the time.
Yeah,
I definitely wasn't as grown up, if anyone could believe that. But super fun. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited.
Real estate's a fun. Oh, by the way, this is Mike Radice. If I ask Siri, she thinks you're Radice.
Radice. That's how you say my name.
Oh, really?
Italian. Yeah. It's
She thinks you're. Because something came up the other day, and I think I had my AirPods in, and it was saying Mike Radice's calling. I was like, oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah. It means root in Italian. Root? Yeah, that's why I'm 5'0" nothing.
Where was I going with that? No, real estate's it's awesome. I mean, and it's funny because we never knew each other at Lifetime, but he came to me through Lifetime. I had a referral from a guy that we both knew, and that's how I met you and helped you guys buy a house, and now you're going to be selling real estate. You're licensed as of last night.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as of today, you're with the broker. So you are an active, I think so, right?
Yeah.
Didn't they get that all set up?
Yeah, yesterday. I want to say it was 12.
Oh, it was yesterday. Okay.
12:42.
Okay. Like middle of the day?
Yeah, right in the middle of the day.
Cool.
12:42.
Yeah. So real estate, you get your license, but then it's inactive and you can't do anything with it. You can't do real estate. You can't do anything. And fortunately, we had everything lined up. So you sent me that message in the morning, and then our team here at Coldwell Banker Apex got you set up.
Within a couple hours. I mean, I got that driving. It was 8:30.
Yeah, and you're literally, when you have the inactive license, you're like, okay, now I can't do anything in real estate. I got this license, now I can't do anything until it's active. And in order to be active, you have to be sponsored by a broker. So, but we already got that stuff done ahead of time, so it was an easy just kind of
ready to rock and roll.
So so I'm super excited. But real estate's fun. Real estate is the real estate part of it's fun, but also the customer service, the sales, the people, Lifetime was a quantity thing. You had a lot of relationship with a lot of people, and you had to take care of a lot of people to make a decent living for your family. Real estate, same thing, but you can spend more time, more effort, more love, more care with every single client because the return is higher per client, which is really cool. And it also, once you build your business, you will have the opportunity to interview them just as much as they're interviewing you. And that sounds insane. The first couple of years, probably not.
Right.
But, when somebody asks you, oh, do you do this? Yep, absolutely. And, we stay within what we're comfortable with and what we know. But, the first few years I would take any business I could, whether it was, somebody that wasn't super likable to people that I just loved to work with. And now, fortunately, because we build our business on referral and repeat clients, we get to work with their friends and their family, and that's cool because chances are I'm going to like your friends because I like you. Same thing with anyone else.
Right.
And so that's, to me, is a really cool way of building not only a business worth living, but also a life worth living.
Right.
Because then you can do things with those people. And I had a guy, good client, known him for years, and met him at an open house. And he asked me recently, maybe a week ago, he goes, hey, can my son talk to you about real estate? He wants to get in real estate. And I was like, whoa. That's cool, because if he's trusting his kid with me, and that's his second kid, his first kid his other kid bought a house from me.
Oh wow!
And so, but then now his other kid wants to get in real estate, and so we talked yesterday on the phone with his kid, and he's not a kid, he's an adult, but he's his kid and younger than me, I suppose. But I was like, that's cool, like that means more than just the business that I'm getting. So, and you get to eventually choose to work with people like that.
Right.
When I go to a listing appointment or I get a buyer lead from someone, like, and then my conversations, I'm picking up, like, are they open to my advice? Are they open to trusting me? Are they pleasant? Are they nice? Are they considerate people? Or are they a jerk?
Right.
And I have a no jerks policy. It took me a couple years to get to that point.
Yeah.
So, it's a cool business to be in, and a cool opportunity to kind of build what you want to build.
I think that's how I'm going to tie all that in with what I've been doing for the last 20 years, because as training, it's the same way.
Exactly.
A client will come in with certain injuries that I know nothing about, and instead of taking those people's lives and pain in my hands, I will refer them out to someone who would know better. Not because I don't trust myself, but more or less I know what they need in order to get from their point A to point B. So that's where I'm comfortable.
And training is customer service and sales. And
Absolutely.
Sales is one of those, when I got into real estate, I'm like, oh, I'm not a salesperson. I'm not a salesperson. I don't like that. Because when you think of sales, you think of car salesman, and you think of used car salesman, you think of furniture salesman, you think of these other salespeople that are just like cringeworthy,
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I'm not in sales. I'm not in sales. Well, now I'm absolutely in sales, and that's my primary job. But it's not. I'm selling through relationships. I'm selling through expertise. I'm selling through these, the trust and all of that, because. But I'm absolutely selling it. And training's the same way, because people have to like, know, and trust you. And then they also have to, it's customer service. It's like stuff will go wrong. Stuff will absolutely go wrong. Like not every transaction's smooth. Not every interaction is smooth. Stuff will go wrong, and how are you addressing it? How are you taking care of them?
Right. Just to think about all the different, scenarios that I've been put in over the 20 years and the hundreds of people that I've trained.
You've been training for 20 years?
20 years. I'm 41, 20 years, maybe 21. Actually,
wow.
I started when I was, October 22nd, 2000. I remember the date. Yep, it was with Bally Total Fitness, 95th Street, Oak Lawn, in Chicago, Illinois.
Wow,
Yeah.
20 years. Yeah. So I'd say you figured out sales and customer service.
But same attitude as you. I always tell people I'm not a salesman. I dipped my toe in a couple of different spots of selling things, and I found that if I wasn't passionate about it, if I didn't care, I couldn't sell it.
Yeah.
But if it was something that I completely enjoyed, I saw value, it was purposeful, I could sell it all day, because that's just me feeling, and people feel the passion of what I'm talking about.
You're as excited as they are.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, and that's another reason why I'm excited about this business, because believe it or not, your house can, or the place that you live can tell the story for you. Like if it's set up in the way that you like it, or the aura of the house. I just think about my morning routine every day. What I get up, what I do. I get up, meditate, make breakfast. Believe it or not, I turn on the radio, kind of sing and dance a little bit.
I don't do that.
I do. I wake up happy, right? I wake up happy, and
I don't wake up. It takes me a few moments, because I'm always up before my wife. And then once my wife gets up and we can kind of interact, then that really starts my day.
Yeah,
it's just she's just fun to be around.
Yeah, I found myself this morning when
I don't get out of bed that way.
Man, making the kids, making the boys breakfast. I got the radio on. Michael's like, it's 5:45. I said, I know, let's go. And what are you making? Chocolate waffles and sausage. So, but again, we're going back to the space. My favorite room is the kitchen. Okay. Right. So, other than training and building relationships, one of my favorite things to do is to cook.
Yeah.
prep all my food. I am always looking forward, thinking about it. So if I have a nice kitchen and I know that it kind of overlooks, like, say, the TV, right? I can do 2 or 3 things at the same time.
Yeah.
So that's the layout that I look for that personally makes me happy, brings me joy. Those are things that we look for our clients, or what I'm guessing that I'm going to look for our clients in real estate is, what are your must-haves and how can that make your day successful?
Yeah.
You are setting yourself up for success
A little closer to the mic.
if you like the way your house is laid out. So that's another reason why I'm excited.
And that was one of the big reasons why we bought that house, is because the kitchen, the dining room, it's basically a giant rectangle, and you have the kitchen, you have the dining room, and you have the living room. It's all open.
Yeah.
All the same flooring. It's all open. It's just a cool space because you can be sitting down for dinner and watching TV. You can be in the living room, hanging out with people in the dining room. You can be in the dining room with the kitchen. It's all kind of the same space.
Yeah.
And there's a bar in the kitchen as well, a counter depth bar. And that was one of the biggest things because we found it. Well, me and Tiff found, because I sell houses for a living, so I see a bunch of cool stuff. And there was it was $1.2 million house, and had one of the coolest layouts that I saw. It's way nicer than our house, but it had that rectangle. It was the same thing. It was the kitchen, the dining, and the living room. And I loved the way that was set up. And so that was probably a year before we bought that house, and we love it. I mean, we had last Thanksgiving, not this one, 2020, but pre-COVID Thanksgiving. We had like 20 people at our house that we hosted for Thanksgiving.
Wow.
We had 2 long tables. It was so cool, and I loved that. I've always wanted that. And so once we get back to like normal, non-COVID stuff, and it's reasonable to have 20 people at your house again, I told my family, I'm calling dibs on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Because I love it. It's so fun, and the energy, because I have a small family, and my wife has a much larger family, and I've always loved the chaos of Home Alone.
Yeah.
I've always loved that. I love Home Alone. Home Alone is something that we always watch. Like my wife turned it on the other day, and I was like, she's like, "What do you think I'm turning on?" I'm like, "I don't know." I was like, "Oh my gosh, it's Home Alone again!" And it never gets old. But I love the chaotic, that combined family with all these people with all these personalities and all this craziness. I wouldn't want that every day, but for the holidays, it's fun. And I don't ever recall having that chaos because we have a smaller family. So.
Gotcha.
So the house allows us to do that.
Right.
If we're in an apartment, which we were before, we couldn't host anything. And now I'm like, I have an awesome house. We'll cook 90% of the stuff. So you really have no reason to say no to you coming to my house for Thanksgiving. And everyone loved it. And we had my family, Tiffany's kind of extended family, some in-laws that are it was just a bunch of, and we took care of everyone's Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So there were probably 5 families that would normally do separate things, and we did all of them at once. So it was a time-saving thing for them, but it was fun.
Cool to have everyone.
And it wasn't too chaotic, but it was just enough where it was, and I think as we do it over the years, it'll get more chaotic, hopefully.
Yeah, and thinking about that in layouts, something came to mind while you were talking about the big box and all the houses that we saw. I loved the input that you provided as we walked different spaces.
Okay.
And at that time, I didn't always know exactly what you were saying.
Yeah.
But as I was reading through the books, I started to understand what you were talking about. And that being 2 floors or your formal dining room or formal living room, your study space, and how the space could be used, right? So after we chose the house that we did, the next time I look, I probably won't be looking for 2 floors because that isn't me.
Yeah.
I do love doing stairs, but that isn't something that I enjoyed, walking up and down the stairs.
One floor is fantastic. Most
is.
people want 1 floor. The problem that you run into is that if you take the same square footage on a 2-story and you make it into 1-story, you need more land, and the house becomes a whole lot more expensive.
Right.
And so that's where you have that kind of challenge. But we have 2 stories down; it's fine. But I think the next house we buy will probably be a similar size, not a ton bigger, but we want it all on 1 floor.
Right.
Because it's nice to have everything on.
Yeah, my original plan was, when the kids wanted to go be kids, to go upstairs. Yeah. But let me tell you, you can hear them being kids while they're upstairs more than when they're downstairs.
Yeah.
So that was something I didn't know because I've never been in that situation before. Definitely a mistake.
Yeah.
In my part, but you live and learn.
Yeah.
But that's me.
The more houses you buy, the more you see what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And everyone's different too. Mm-hmm. Some people, that's why we have that. I sent you that buyer kind of questionnaire thing.
Yeah.
And it just goes through some stuff, and it's like basic questions, like what room do you use most in the house? I had a family say master bedroom once, and they had 6 kids. I'm like, what do you do in the master bedroom with 8
Hiding?
people? And no, like that's what and they go, oh, in the morning they get, the kids. My wife stays at home with the kids, so we get ready in the bedroom, and it's always family time, regardless of what happens in the day. The morning is when we have cartoons on the TV. I'm like, husband's getting ready, wife's feeding the kids and getting them ready and doing stuff with them. It's in the master bedroom. So they said, regardless of what happens in the day, they always use the master. And so that painted a picture for me of, because for me, I'm like, what? Like, why are you in the master all this time with all this huge family? And I realized me understanding their lifestyle and understanding how they use a home painted a picture of really what they needed. And I was like, you need a sitting area in your master bedroom. Like, you need a living room that's attached to your master bedroom. And they're like, you can get that? I'm like, 100%, that's what you need. But he didn't even know what he needed until he told me how to use your house. Some people don't like open kitchens. Most people do. But some people want to have a kitchen kind of off. They're like, oh, I don't like smelling the food off the living room or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it helps to really understand what people are doing. But the more houses you buy, personally, the better you understand what do you like, what do you not like. A lot of people move to large houses, and they're like, oh, that's just too much room, especially if there's not a bunch of people there.
Right.
There's only one person, and the husband travels or the wife travels, and one's at home. It feels enormous.
Right. One that comes to mind specifically was a house in Mansfield that you showed us. I was in love with the price. It was a lower price point. The inside didn't look as nice. I remember you walking around and saying, this is a really nice space. Yeah. I was looking at the floor it was somewhat hideous in a way. Uh-huh. It had some weird kind of wood that looked like camouflage. Do you remember this place? It had the 2-car garage, but it had the extra space at the back of the garage.
Okay.
And you walked in the doorway in the foyer it was like a gray and brown. It looked like wood. We couldn't tell if they were going to lay down flooring or if that was it and it was finished. And it also had the bar like that. So anyways, at the time, I wasn't feeling or understanding that you can go ahead and change all the things that you didn't like if you liked the space or the size. Yeah. That house, I think I liked it. I just didn't realize of what I could have changed to make it exactly what I wanted. And that's something that I was learning and something that you could go ahead and bring to your clients is this checks all your boxes. Don't look at all the little things. Don't let the tail waggle the dog. We can make this exactly what you're looking for.
And that's one of the things that I talk to sellers about, because sellers, I have sellers spend no money getting their house ready, and then I have sellers spend a few $100s, $10,000, $50,000 getting their house ready, depending on a lot of factors. But most buyers have a really hard time seeing what a house could be versus, like if I had clients recently replace all the carpet in their house. That's a pretty common one because and they had dogs and kids, and I was like, it's going to need to get done. So are we good with go ahead and knocking it out and getting it done prior to listing, because it's going to look a lot better. We're going to get better, traction, things like that. And they did. But it's, buyers come in and they don't, it's really hard to see past that.
Right.
We had a listing in Mesquite, and it was a good friend of mine. It was her parents' house and the house that she was in high school. And it was it was very dated. Mm-hmm. I said, great. Got some money to spend, or you want to sell it as is? And she's like, I'm willing to put some money in. We're already looking at quotes. I was like, this is what I would do. And so I think they ended up spending, $10,000 or so, and making probably $20,000 or $30,000 more at least.
Right.
Because we were originally going to price it at like $170, and then we bumped it up to like $190 something. I think it closed over $200.
Wow.
So she made her $10,000 back and some.
Wow.
And so, because it wasn't the prettiest house when it went to sell, but all those little things were done that people would go in. They're like, carpet's old. Got to do the carpet. Got to paint it. The paint's old. Like, you just knock it out, and you're gonna make more on the back end, because most buyers have a hard time looking at things like I do. And the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Yeah.
But seeing that paint is the easiest upgrade you can make to a house, because it changes everything.
Yeah.
Like this room, we have a gray wall. We got beige walls. If you came in and painted all white, it would change the entire feel of this room.
Right.
So, well, I don't know what else we have to talk about.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's just so many things.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to get you guys on here and introduce Mike Radice to everyone. I'm sure you'll share this once it's online. Yeah, I'm super excited. I was talking to somebody else in the office recently about you, and I was saying that, they were just like, oh, I really like him. He's going to be great. I said, oh yeah, it's like you hire the person, and then you teach them the skill. Like the skill's the easy part. Like I can teach anyone to do anything if it's the right person to start with. And I've done this. I've been a hiring manager for that's one of the things I did at Lifetime.
Yeah.
I've interviewed probably thousands of people. I've hired hundreds of people, and I've fired dozens.
Yeah.
And so it's just I've gone through that, and that's the biggest thing, and that's some advice for if real estate agents, if you're building your team or if you're in business, you hire the person, teach the skill, and the skill's easy. Like teaching how to show a house, teaching you what to know and what not to know, like that is easy. Getting somebody that's passionate, getting somebody that'll work hard, getting somebody that'll put the work in and be teachable and all that stuff. That stuff you can't teach. And you were a manager too. You probably know that just as well as I do.
In fact, that was always one of my equations.
Yeah.
It's you have to and be able to enjoy it if you're passionate about it, if you're coachable. So I know that I'm all of those, but I also know that I'm passionate about it. It's been something in the back of my mind for quite some time, and I'm more than excited to do it. Just to go back and talk about studying. People told me, don't worry about it. You're not going to use half of that stuff. That's not the real world. And I thought
Which is true, but you still got to pass the test.
You still have to pass the test. And that's the same thing with personal training, right? We learn science. We learn all the movements and elbow flexion in the sagittal plane. And you don't talk to your clients that way, but you need to know it, right? And going back into the studying part, totally lost my mind of what I was going to say. So I'm going to think for a second and just take a moment of silence. But I was super just interested. I wanted to know it. And when I had to take all the little tests in between, I realized early that I couldn't memorize, right? It wasn't about memorization. It was about, for me, knowing, because I knew I was going to have to take this test. And the whole time I was worried because, by the way, I took this in Chicago and I failed, right? And I looked for all the reasons why. I was a kid. I was full-time personal trainer. I had my own house, car, and all that stuff at 23 years old. So I came up with a bunch of excuses. Well, this time I said, if I fail, it's my fault. I have to put in the work.
Yeah.
So I put in the work, and I said I was going to pass, and there was that was it. It was my only option. Like, you're going to pass, you're going to put in the work because this time you know it. And you're not memorizing, and it felt amazing.
Yeah,
it felt super good. I mean, it just felt good to take that test, be done in like 35 minutes instead of the 4 hours that they give you, and walk out with a passing grade. I literally couldn't wipe the smile off my face all the way home.
Well, it's funny because I was going to text you that morning and say I know you're going to pass, but I felt like that was a little too much pressure.
Yeah, no, I woke up and did my normal routine. Turned on the radio, made breakfast, danced around the kitchen a little bit, and I looked in the mirror and said, "You're gonna pass."
Yeah.
And I had some people that were just had the highest amount of confidence in me, and the whole time, just, "You're gonna do great. You're gonna do great. You're gonna pass. You're gonna kill it." And then they started making me worried, like you said. They're kind of like, "Man, I would be letting down like 35 people right now if I failed." So.
No pressure.
I would stay in for days, lock the doors, read, take tests. And I'm glad that I did, because going into it knowing more instead of what do I have to remember, so I'm, not the Jedi that is like always Yoda, what do I do now?
Yeah.
Like, I might know some of it. Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah, that's funny. That's what I learned I tell people this from time to time, but I wrestled in high school, and that was one of the cool things about wrestling. I think any kind of wrestling, martial arts, jiu-jitsu, things like that, is because when you're out there fighting or you're wrestling or whatever, if you win, it's your fault. If you lose, it's your fault. It's no one else's fault. No one else is there. There's no team. And you're still working as a team, in tournaments and things like that, because your points matter. Whether you win or lose matters to the team. But when you're out there, at the end of the day, and there were people that I wrestled with, it was somebody else's fault. That there's always those people. But that was one of the things when I was a lot younger that was just so powerful. Is that, if I win, that was my fault. I mean, I had the help of other people, but it was 100% on me that I won, or it was 100% on me that I lost.
Yeah.
And real estate is very much the same way with, there's people that get into real estate, and so much of real estate is there's a lot of people that know what they're talking about. There's a lot of people that are they have the knowledge, if you will, but they're not willing to go out and work. And real estate is a contact sport. The more contacts you get, the more people, because you think about it, if somebody is really bad at a real estate agent, but they get more contacts than you, they're going to have quite a bit of business because they'll eventually find people that want to do business with them. And so if you do more and you get better, then that just keeps increasing your your lead source. And that's where I see agents come in. And I think it was, I don't know what the number is. It's huge. Again, no pressure, but it's like it's a huge, enormous. It's over 50%.
Yeah.
That real estate agents never renew their license.
Yeah.
So once you get your license in Texas, 2-year license, right?
2 years.
2 years,
Yeah.
on the first one. And it's 2 years every 2 years. But it's a 2-year license. And so the majority of agents that get licensed do not renew their license.
Yeah.
So they got in real estate thinking that they were going to go sell houses. And they might have sold some, but they didn't do good enough or something changed where they didn't renew it.
Yeah.
That's how hard real estate is. And that's what happens that I see is people just aren't doing the work to get better and know their stuff and be willing to learn, be willing to read, and going out there doing the work. I think I did 12 open houses before I ever got a client.
Yeah.
Before I ever got one person that committed to buying a house with me or selling a house. 12 open houses.
But if you do the math, you can do that in 3 weeks.
Well, it took me weeks because I was still working at Lifetime full time. I was like, well, I can work on the weekends. I can go to open house on the weekends. So I'll do that. And I kept, and I didn't start with a team. I started on my own. I'm like, I got this. I know what I'm doing. I can figure it out. And it was hard. And so I would just do an open house, do an open house, do an open house, do an open house. And eventually, this guy walks in and he goes, he's still a client to this day. He bought 2 houses, almost 2 houses, I think right around $1 million total in cash within the first 13 months that I knew the guy.
Yeah. And
I met him from an open house. He was a young guy like me. I was like, he comes to the open house. I asked him some questions. And I said, I explained how I got paid. And he didn't know. Like as a buyer, buyers they rarely will have to pay their agent to represent them. And when I say rarely, I mean like 99.9% of the time.
I didn't know they did.
And yeah. And so and I explained that to him. He goes, oh, great. Well, here's a list of houses that I've been keeping that I want to look at today. It's like, great. Well, let's open house. Got to be here for the open house. And then we'll go look at these properties. And we looked at properties. We get to the first one. I said, hey, will y'all be getting a loan or paying cash? He goes, oh, no, we wouldn't qualify for a loan. We got to pay cash. I'm like, cool. What price do you want to stay under? He goes, $500,000. It's like, and I'm sitting here, I'm a brand new agent. I'm like, that's a lot of money.
And can't qualify for
and
a
it's
loan.
Cash. Well, it wasn't because he wasn't good for it, but it was just a weird situation for me. I was like, okay. And we go look at houses. He sends me proof of funds. We write a contract. We win the contract. He buys the house. And I told him, I was like, what do you want to do with this house? Like, what's your goals? He goes, I want to rent it out. I said, well, he's like, we're going to live in it, then we're going to buy something different, and we're going to rent out the one that we're just buying. I was like, you don't want to spend $500. We want to spend like $200, $250, which at the time was a lot more house. Now that house is probably over $3, easy, right. Over $350. And so I was like, to rent it out, you really want to be lower than that. So he bought it. He calls me like 12 months later. He's we're having a family. We need a bigger house. I was like, okay. I was like, what do you want to stay under? He goes, $1 million. I was like, cash again? He goes, yep.
Yeah.
And he buys a house for $600,000, almost $700,000. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I think by then I probably got a lot better because I was doing so much repetition, but it wasn't that I was the expert that I am now. It was that I just did it. And sometimes somebody will walk in the door and they're like, I need to buy a house. Can you help me?
Yeah.
Like, yes, sir.
You might want to follow up with that. You might want to follow up with that guy because with COVID, families are getting a little bigger too. So.
Yeah, no kidding.
Man, we were talking about going back into that conversation with the open houses and the real estate agents failing. Uh-huh. I couldn't stop but smile while you were saying it because I had a couple clients myself. I told them, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to get in the real estate. And they're like, oh, you don't want to do that? You know how many real estate agents there are? I said, yes, that's why I want to do it. I go, half of them aren't me. Yeah. Or the way that I work, or the way that I believe I hustle. That's why I'm excited. That's why I enjoy jobs that involve sales, because you can go out and just make your paycheck, right? I mean, you could work all day or you can not work at all. If you want to give yourself a raise, work a little harder, right? And what excites me is it's something that I enjoy.
Yeah.
So I'm not afraid of the other failing real estate agents. I spent 20 years in a business where the same thing happens. People get certified and they want to train and they think they're there just to help people and don't realize that they have to pay for your time. I made a living out of that, while a lot of people would do it for a year, figure out it isn't for them. So again, that motivates me.
Yeah, I think there's some stat on like most people know an average of like 10 real estate agents or something like that. Mm-hmm. It's some really big number. Yeah. And so if you think about it that way, everyone has a choice of multiple real estate agents just that they know that they might want to use. And it's not, I wouldn't say it's easy to stand out, but it's not hard to stand out.
Right.
I mean, if people work with people they like, know, and trust. Yeah. So the likability, it has to be the right connection. Yeah. If they're a jerk and I'm a nice person, it's probably not going to get work from me.
Right.
If I'm a jerk and they're a nice person, or I'm a jerk, period, I'm probably not very likable either. And then they don't want to know you. They want to know who you are, what you're about, know that you've been, you know what you're doing. You know, whether you're brand new and have a really nice team to work on and a brokerage to work with that knows all that stuff, even though you're still learning. Or, and then the last is just trust. And why would they trust you? They're going to trust you because you've become an expert and so, all of those things together aren't really that difficult. But it's, what do they say about reputation? It takes a lifetime to build a reputation and 1 moment to lose it, or something like that.
Absolutely.
And it's, so you got to consistently be, who you are. And when I got in real estate, I was like, oh, I need to make sure that I, dress a certain way and act a certain way and speak a certain way and look a certain way and all these other things that people don't care. Like, you're going to attract people that want to work with you, and you're going to repel people that don't want to work with you. That is the nature of life.
Right.
And if you can do that over and over and over, you're going to start building your little tribe of people that trust you and want to work with you, and they'll always work with you. They're lifetime clients that they will, no pun intended, lifetime clients, but they're lifetime clients that will want to work with you forever.
Right. No matter where you or they are at. I want to throw you a compliment. While we were looking for houses, and again, because I have had this career in the back of my mind for so long, I knew I was going to be on your team. I knew it, and you are very likable,
cool.
respectful.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Oh no, it made it. I was actually excited to go looking through houses just to kind of pick your brain out, ask all these questions, and we'd, sit around and get to know each other for 20 minutes after a house that we looked at, and it was just a matter of time. So a few of the times that I had sitting at home during the COVID and being with the kids more, I remember texting you like, hey, what does this job entail? Like, I was looking to get into anything real estate before I even had a license. Do you recall that?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
And you're like, oh, I don't really know about this, and this. And I said, and finally I just went out on a limb and said, hey, like, what do I have to do to get licensed? And what can I do to do that? And it just made me happy and this is why I'm kind of even lost for words, was where would be the best place I can get a job once I get my license? And right away, Jordan said, well, I'd love for you to be on my team. And that's exactly what I wanted to hear. That's and cool. It excited me more. So, and again, that just made me study a little bit harder because I saw the future that I wanted. And I'm excited.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's, Tiffany and I, my wife, we look back, and we don't do it on a routine or anything, but something happens, and we look back on our life when we started together versus now where we are, and it's so cool what real estate allows us to do. I mean, there's some things where we might have lunch in the middle of the day on a Tuesday, less so now because of COVID, but like that's cool. Like I might be wrapping up my morning stuff, going out for appointments, and she's like, are you hungry? And she makes me a meal. Like, that's cool. We spend so much time together that most of their jobs, that wouldn't be a possibility, and that's cool. And that was always something very important to me, is spending more time with my family than most people think is possible, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so that was, and that's just one of the things. And then you have the financial side, and you have the lifestyle side, and you have the some days I work, a couple hours a day, and some days I work, 10 hours a day or longer. And so and I have no idea how long I work. I don't know how long I work most days or ever really.
Probably doesn't feel like work.
It doesn't feel it because I like what I'm doing. And I'm, there's sometimes I feel like, oh my gosh, I have such a good world around me, such a good life because I get to do things that I want to do. I get to be around people I want to be around with. And when you work for a company, that's not the case. You tolerate people because they're your boss or subordinate or peer or whatever. So I don't know where I was going with that, but real estate's a pretty sweet thing to do. The other thing I want to say is that you can, not only are you selling real estate in North Texas, you're also, you have a referral network now, Coldwell Banker Apex, that allows you to connect people from all over the world.
Yeah.
Like we were talking the other day about how I have a good friend of mine, lives in California, moving to Tennessee, and like I was able to connect her with an agent that was really, really good. And basically, he's when I talked to him, I was like, he's like me, but not here.
Yeah.
And so it was cool to be able to connect them because I can, we can help make sure that you're in front of the right people. Like because there's tens of thousands of agents in North Texas. How do you pick the right one?
Yeah.
Obviously, you hire one of us, but how do you pick the right one if you're in an area that you don't understand? How do you pick? Well, I can help you do that because I know what questions to ask that you might not think of.
Right.
So, and this network it's not easy to stay in that referral network. So.
Yeah. That's
because you get a bunch of people in Chicago that I'm sure will be
and
leaning on you
have as just a regular person. I have a handful of people that I've worked with in the Chicagoland area who I have been referring out to them.
Yeah.
So. A lot of the people were on my teams. And again, speaking with one of my first clients who lives in California, who I've been sending all my referral work to, she probably won't be as happy because you might not get it now. But yeah, I completely understand that. And I think having that is powerful because you
It's
guys
huge.
know who the best people are
Yeah.
in every state, so you have a relationship. And that's huge because like we were talking about before, there's so many agents and there's so many, there's so many agents. What makes someone stand out from the next person? And that's where I was really thinking about myself. How am I going to be different? Well, I care a lot, about people and their situation. So you're going to kind of go above and beyond to make sure that everything is smooth, everything is comfortable, and then they're ultimately happy with what they're buying because you know what? They know where you live, they know your phone number. This wasn't everything that I was looking for. I'm not happy with this. So you kind of want to go out of your way to make sure that they're checking all their boxes and they're ultimately happy and the house brings them the pleasure that they're looking for because they might not come back.
Yeah.
They might not come back. And that's the same thing with selling. It took us months to sell our house in Chicago, and it was very frustrating. I wasn't there for it, so I can't say this is something that needed to be done or this didn't. But and then it sold. I don't want to go into that story, but again, what makes you different? What makes you stand out? How does somebody pick? And you were talking about likable, being trustworthy. That is something that I know that I can bring to the table because if I have any questions, I will ask you. I have no problem saying if someone asks me a question, I would just say, Jordan, listen, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
But
I still do that.
Yeah.
There's some things that I don't have answers to.
I have a phone full of contacts with all the people who do.
Yeah.
Hold on. I have the time and I have all the people with all the answers in my pocket, and I have no problem saying that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm not too proud for sure.
Because I feel like a lot of people do that, and there was a guy that I don't know where he was, if he was on the internet or something, but commented on one of my posts. Oh, you should always have the answer, or one of my videos. Oh, you should always have the answer to everything. It's basically the gist of what he was saying. I was like, what world are you living in where somebody has the answer to literally everything? That's just not. That doesn't exist.
I know a person.
But it just doesn't exist. And so being, and I do this all the time not all the time, but often with clients. They'll ask me a question. I was like, I don't know the answer to that. I said, but let me find the answer. Let me, whether reach out to the listing agent or do some research or whatever it is and figure out what the answer is. And sometimes there is no answer. Sometimes no one knows what the answer is. And that's okay too. Because sometimes no one knows for sure what the answer to something in particular is. So
Right. I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
I know we probably want to cut this short, but we could always edit out whatever
I'm not
doesn't
going to
make
edit anything. It's too much work.
You're not? I mean, I added about 3,000 ums. If you can just take some of those out,
I'm
that'd
not
be
taking those
amazing.
My profession is selling real estate, not editing video.
Oh, dang. Okay, so one of my questions is,
Yeah.
what's your most memorable closing? Your favorite one?
It wasn't the closing. It was the aftermath of the closing.
Okay.
So met these people that they were a referral from another client who was also at Lifetime. and worked with them. They were basically buying their dream house. They wanted to buy into a certain school district. They wanted to buy into a certain area, and they wanted to upgrade their house. And they wanted a lot of boxes being checked off on this house. They're always a pleasure to work with. And one day, the wife and I were talking. I don't know if we were at a house or whatever. I don't even know if we closed on the house yet. But we were talking, and I was like, oh, we're pretty particular. I think Tiffany and I were. That was 20. We might have no, I don't think we were married yet. We were going to get married. We got married shortly after, but we were together, living together. And we were just like, oh, we're just, we're pretty particular about who we really choose to spend time with. And we've always been that way. And they're like, oh, yeah, we're the same way. And we closed on the house. I don't remember which house, because we closed on their purchase, then we closed on then they sold their other house once they moved to the new one. And they invited us out to dinner and said, we just want to thank you for, taking such good care of us. I was like, this was at the time, it was one of the largest commission checks I'd ever gotten. Mm-hmm. And I said, and I told Tiffany, I was like, oh my gosh, like they're wanting to take both of us out to dinner to thank me for all the work I did on their houses. And I'm like, oh my, that's awesome.
Yeah.
They're now our best friends.
Yeah.
They're our closest friend. They're such cool people. And it was such a cool experience seeing what real estate, if I wasn't in real estate, I would have never met them.
Right.
And we hang out with them all the time. We spend time with them. We know their kids. Their kids love us. Every time they're like, oh, Jordan and Tiffany are coming over. They're both super excited. And that's really, really cool. And that relationship wouldn't have existed without real estate.
Yeah.
And that's my most memorable closing, not because of the closing. I don't even remember which closing it was. There were a couple houses. But the fact that turned into a relationship that we will have for the rest of our lives is really, really cool.
Yeah.
And it's one of those weird things that if the wires didn't cross the way they did at the right time,
it wouldn't happen.
And the funny thing is, this buddy of mine from Lifetime said, "Oh, I'm gonna have somebody wants to get in real estate. I'm gonna send them your number. Do you mind if I send them?" I'm like, "Absolutely." So I get a call. We were in Miami. This is years ago. Mm-hmm. We were in Miami on a vacation, and I got a voicemail from this. Oh, so and so gave me your name. I'm calling you about real estate. Just give me a call back when you get a chance. I texted her, and I thought it was about getting into real estate. No, it was about buying a house, a very expensive house. And so it was just funny that I was like, oh, hey, we're on vacation with a family. Do you mind if I call you back when I get into town on Monday? And then I called her back. She goes, oh, we're looking to stay under this price point. I was like, because I ask people when we're talking about price point, is there a price that you want to stay under? Mm-hmm. Because that's a way to say whatever you want to say. It's like, because some people, they could literally buy any house they wanted in the world. And there's a price they want to stay under.
Right.
And so, but there's also people that only get qualified up to a certain point. And I also want to ask them the question the same way. Because I don't know who's who. I don't know if you only get qualified to 300, and I don't know if you literally have, all the money in the world to buy whatever you want. I don't know, and I can't assume that. So I ask everyone, what price do you want to stay under? And it was a big number. And I was like, oh, God. Because I was like...
It put you off for 3 days.
I put you off for... Yeah, it was a few days. And anyways, it was just funny how that worked because I didn't... And now I would probably do the same thing. I said, hey, if they wanted to call now, I'd absolutely cut out the time and do it when I was on vacation. But, I find that most people that I work with, they appreciate that. Unless they're in a rush, then, then it's not a big deal. But, yeah, that probably definitely my most memorable closing, even though I don't even remember the closing.
Yeah. I love the answer because that's something that I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to replace exactly. Yeah. Because the closest person I have that I know is the real estate agent that was one of my personal training clients that I actually kept the relationship with. Again, like I said, was one of my clients. So I love the relationship part of businesses and I know I need that for me. So that being your answer shows that can fulfill that part for me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, a lot of your clients you build relationships with and you know them well, but you're not hanging out with them.
Right.
You're not, at least a lot of my clients. Like I have great relationship with all of them. I feel like I'm friendly and we're friends with a lot of them. But there's very few of them that ever transition into we're literally seeing each other every couple of weeks.
Right.
We're talking about our lives together in the future. We're talking about how our lives are looked together. We'll talk about, future investments together. I mean, that to me is it's really cool. And mm-hmm. And Tiffany and I grew up together. I'll tell you the story at some point, but Tiffany and I grew up together, but we didn't really get back in touch until 2016. And it was one of those weird twisted wire situations where like all of these things had to come together perfectly for us to even be in the same place at the same time.
Yeah.
And the likelihood of that happening in any other timeline
Yeah.
would be, I mean, almost impossible. And so it's just,
Okay.
it's crazy.
Cool. But it worked
Did
out
you have
well.
another question?
Yeah. I have one more. And maybe it's a little fear that I want to ask, or to know that it's okay or whatever this is. But I ask this question all the time because I do, what if you're showing a house and you fall down the stairs? Or if you knock something off a wall? Like, what's the most embarrassing moment that you have? Or have you had any?
Not really.
All right, that's good. I'll let you know mine when it does. But I'm kidding.
I don't. I'm sure I have,
Yeah.
but I just don't hang on to stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure I've fallen. I think I've slipped on stairs before, but I caught myself pretty quick. And I'm pretty nimble, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure. I mean, I don't, but I just don't stick to it. Like we laugh about, it, we move on.
Yeah.
I mean, it's. And again, a lot of my clients nowadays are people that I have a pretty good relationship with, so it's not like, I don't think I've broken anything.
I know what mine's gonna be. I'm gonna see a spider that I just don't know is there, and I'm probably gonna scream to the top of my lungs just for a second, and then I'll walk away,
and it'll be funny.
Yeah.
So I don't. Spiders really don't bother me. Snakes bother me. But if I'm around people, I'll act tough. If I'm by myself, I'll scream like a little girl.
Right. Okay.
And I've done it.
Yeah.
Like I've had a big snake, and both of these were at Lifetime. There was a little snake in the pump room, which is the room that runs all of the like pool equipment, and it was a tiny little snake, and it came out of the corner, and I ran, and it scared me. And then there was one in the flower bed in the outdoor pool, and people were out there, and it was a big snake, and I had to like shoo it off.
Yeah.
And I had no problem with that because I was tough then, but I was
out here 2 years.
Yeah. Other snakes.
9 months of COVID.
I think there's three snakes that are venomous.
Okay.
That will absolutely cause you problems.
Okay.
If you
I'll stay
I
away
just
from
assume they're all yeah.
All spiders.
And all the snake people right now, he's like, "Ooh, he said venomous, not poisonous," because that's the correct way. Yeah, and then we have like brown recluses and black widows, and then we have copperheads and diamondback rattlesnakes, and I think there's one other like a water moccasin or something. But yeah, there's I just don't. And rattlesnakes are terrifying. Have you ever been around a rattlesnake?
I've never seen one.
Okay, so a rattlesnake, you don't need to know what it sounds like to know it's a rattlesnake, and they have their tail and it rattles.
Yeah.
And if you ever hear that and you're out in the dark, and I've been out in the dark, not real estate related, it was out. I think my some family member had like land, and we were out in this bunk area, like this bunk bed area, and I walk, I think, out the door, and I hear this rattle, and I was like, and it was dark. I mean, we're out in the middle of nowhere, no light pollution. But there's this cabin, like there's not many lights on. I jumped up on the pole of the patio, and I called him. I was like, "Get out here now!" I said, "There is a rattlesnake. I can't see anything." And he comes out. He goes, "Oh, there's no rattlesnake." I'm like, yeah, absolutely, there was one, but yeah, they're terrifying."
Okay.
But I think stay away from them. I wear boots all the time, so a little safer, I guess. They try to bite my ankles. I should be all right.
Yeah.
But,
awesome.
yeah. So. Cool. Well, I appreciate you joining me today.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining the team.
Oh, I'm excited.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye.